Hello, for those of you joining me here today, I'd like you to take a good look at the photos on the screen. Pictures such as the one shown tend to incite many different feelings for people. Often, they are feelings of love and warmth, or sometimes just general feelings of comfort and happiness. But these instants in time have much more significance than just a pleasant, heartwarming scene full of feel-good sentimentality. These early moments in life define the rest of our lives for better or sometimes worse, depending on the individual's experience. Attachment theory seeks to explain such a phenomenon. Most experts in the field of psychology would agree that family of origin and childhood experiences have a profound influence on a person's life. More specifically, the way in which early bonds and relationships are formed between children and their caregivers, which is often a mother, will relate directly to the way their adult relationships develop. Attachment theory explains different types of attachment styles and how they can be expressed in various life experiences and circumstances. Just as I alluded to at the beginning, the first 2 years of a person's life can dramatically affect the rest of his or her natural life. And it's not just relationships, but how we as humans process life. Additionally, attachment styles can reveal much about a person's deep-seated emotional problems. But fortunately, in a counseling context, they can also uncover treatment options that are well suited to the client. Attachment theory is one of the most frequently used and continuously expanding theories in contemporary psychology. It was started in the 1950s by John Bowlby. When Bowlby studied medicine at University College Hospital, located in London, a friend of Bowlby's introduced him to the work of Homer Lane, who inspired Bowlby with his assertion that inadequate parent-child relationships in early childhood were a direct sole cause of juvenile delinquency. Bowlby would later incorporate this idea into his theory, keeping its reality intact. He said that juvenile delinquents, due to the failure of the early mother-child relationship, suffered from a single type of personality disturbance. Early separation experiences deprive children of strong, much-needed connection and eventually would turn them into neurotic characters lacking genuine emotions. Later, Bowlby's former colleague and collaborator, Mary Ainsworth, introduced empirical procedures for classifying attachment relationships, which furthered attachment research in American academic psychology. In short, attachment theory explains human bonding in many different kinds of relationships. It reaches far beyond those that were experienced by an individual in their early childhood years. It spreads all the way to a person's children, their romantic partners, bosses, co-workers, friends, and many other types of relationships because it acts as a lens for the person. So when a caregiver is sensitive to meeting a child's needs consistently, the child will develop what is known as a secure attachment style. When a child whose needs are not met and they are left in an insecure and distressing state, they may end up developing an anxious or avoidant attachment style. The other form of attachment, which would be developed much later by Mary Main and Judith Solomon, was called disorganized attachment. Bowlby then conjectured that anything other than a secure attachment style would have later repercussions in relationships, in which it leaves the individual much more susceptible to stress and the manifestation of mental health issues. You can see the various attitudes and states of mind associated with attachment theory on this next slide. The discovery of secure versus insecure attachment styles greatly influences the mental health field. Counselors need to understand this connection and have it be a mandatory part of his or her training and also the counseling process with the client. It is also noteworthy to mention that depression, eating disorders, anxiety, psychosis, and personality disorders have all been directly linked to poor attachment styles in people. This is not insignificant. And on the other hand, secure attachment styles have been known to have the opposite type of results, including a good mental outlook, which seems to be pivotal and quite protective against psychological dysfunction. Counselors can discover and be aware of their client's attachment style, which will in turn provide techniques or angles that may be best used with that individual. An individual with an insecure attachment style may find it difficult to work with the client-therapist relationship, and so the therapist can then recognize this and take any extra effort that may need to be given. This type of working relationship between therapist and client represents the model as to how all positive personal relationships of the client should function. The model also works to train the client, replacing old, no longer useful internal framework. It enables clients to be able to seek out and use the help and support of others when in times of need, while also showing them the likely response of their actions. When the client becomes stuck in repeated patterns of self-protection from painful experiences, the tendency is to exclude information from self-awareness and processing. but that does not allow the client to consider new information that could be helpful. There are many ways in which attachment theory can relate to specific life areas, such as couples therapy, human sexuality, grief, anxiety, and others. When applying attachment theory in couples therapy, the entire point, in fact, is to appropriately activate one's own attachment needs while simultaneously being aware and acclimated to the partner's attachment needs. When done properly, inevitably, these positive interactions will result in felt security. In relation to grief, attachment styles can be viewed as comparable to the grief reactions. People with particular attachment patterns will reveal certain grief-related difficulties. Several studies indicate that adults with avoidant attachment styles and anxious attachment styles fluctuate in the behavior of their attachment-related thoughts, which ultimately will point to differences in how they might cope with and express anguish over an attachment loss, such as the death of a close family member. The different attachment styles adults use also indicate different means and patterns for handling grief. The treatment paths, then, may take distinct angles depending on the individual's attachment style. Attachment theory also offers valuable information when it comes to childhood sexual abuse. This is especially true when treating the emotional distress that results from such abuse. Because of attachment theory's intrinsic principles, it can methodically and more easily uncover a person's development of psychopathology, behavior dysregulation, and relationship difficulties. A holistic understanding of childhood sexual abuse must include a child's family relationships. When a child has an insecure attachment style, as a result of emotional neglect, the child has undergone the experience that a trusted protective adult has not met some type of need. This is very similar to when a child has been traumatized by sexual abuse because this trusted person has manipulated him or her to satisfy their own sexual gratification. So the correlation of attachment theory can help the therapist comprehend many of the sexual traumas experienced by persons who come in for counseling and treatment. Many people suffer from anxiety disorders, and they appear to be on the rise. Bowlby was quite interested in how attachment styles play a role in the development of adult anxiety. He postured that childhood experiences that left the child hesitant, unsettled, and unsure of the availability of protective figures in times of suffering and distress are the root of adult anxiety. Recent research supports many of Bowlby's hypotheses and shows a pattern of overprotection from the mother and a rejection from the father in people suffering from anxiety disorders. This includes generalized anxiety disorders, social phobias, and panic disorders with or without agoraphobia. In a healthy, collaborative, respectful, and caring therapeutic relationship, attachment issues can be thoroughly discussed and challenged, either directly or indirectly. The building of a secure relationship in therapy helps explore client narratives, which require attention to language, the way a client speaks about certain topics, body language, and reflection about self-identity. Questions to childhood experiences and relationships, along with the loss and separation that inevitably comes with them, should also be discussed. The skilled therapist can then disprove the client's internal perceptions of relationship patterns and insecure outlooks. The world of mental health professionalism is growing. New techniques and methods are developing rapidly. However, without foundational information, such as John Bowlby's attachment theory, little progress can be made. Such enlightening theories illuminate human beings' lives in so many areas, from careers to relationships to strong emotional states of mind. Attachment theory just happens to be one that is highly applicable to counseling and should be utilized in the therapy process. Thank you for listening.